Hi, and welcome to the podcast channel for podcastmybusiness.com.au and also the video channel for contentmadeeasy.com.au. And we're welcomed today by a very special guest from overseas, Louise Lewis. How are you, Louise?
I'm very well, thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
You look pretty awesome. I've just moved and it's been an absolute pain in the ass, but we're getting there. Look, I got you on the show because I did a recent podcast interview with a junior lawyer, and I was covering mental health for Mental Health Month. And we're friends online, and you listened to that podcast, and it was triggering for you. You thought, oh, look, Tony, I've got some geo about the profession and what it's actually really like. And this is why people struggle in the profession and I want to get out. So I thought, oh, we'll have a chat about that, and we're happy to name names and talk about people and get into the dirt.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Okay. So you were with KPMG initially. So what led you into? So you studied law at Bristol University, and we both know Bristol very well. Me mostly. Is it Weatherspoons? Yeah.
Yeah, we used to go. The Weatherspoons was really near the law building, and it was nice and cheap.
It was, wasn't it? And what is it? Do they still have sell ham and eggs cheap and things like that?
Yeah, probably they do. Like it's crazy. They do the meal deal. I don't really drink, but like they do the meal deals, and it's like £5 for a meal and a pint. Steven
Yeah.
House.
Well, they don't even have chefs, so it's whatever they can make in a microwave or a deep fryer.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you got to come out to Australia. We have proper cooks and chefs in our pubs and our restaurants. We don't put up with that shit, but that's okay. Look, so you started off. You were at KPMG when you left uni. How did that go? What led you into doing law?
Yeah. So I trained at a traditional law firm,
Yeah.
and what led me to doing law was, I mean, the honest answer is this deep feeling of not feeling good enough, wanting to make my parents proud, wanting to prove myself, and like, what
Yeah.
could I do that looked good? And I thought, look, like law looked good, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, I'll
Yeah.
go into law because that'll
Mm.
make me look good. So I trained at a traditional law firm in London, and I qualified in September 2009, which was like bang smack in the middle of the financial crisis. So
Mm.
there'd been like tens of thousands of lawyers made redundant, and I just happened to do two. So when you train, you do four different seats in the UK, so four different areas of law, and I'd done two of those seats in tax. And so someone basically said to me, why don't you go into the Big Four rather than a law firm? They've got tax teams in there. You could go
Yeah.
and do law and be a lawyer at the Big Four, which is how I then ended up at KPMG. So I joined KPMG once I qualified.
Right. Okay. Well, that's very fortunate. When people were being flung out the door, you were being welcomed in.
Yeah, yeah, it was,
Mm.
and it felt like there was about a 5 week time between qualifying and being offered the job that was a bit like, oh god, what have I done? And
Right.
like and recruiters saying like basically go and find a different profession because there are just no jobs. Um,
Yeah.
so it was amazing, and I also liked the fact that the Big Four is sold as it's not as demanding as the law firms. Like the hours are less, the culture's different, and so
Mm.
that appealed as well.
Mm. Well, as has subsequently been discovered multiple times over and over and over again, the big four are piranhas. They just destroy, they eat, including people and people's souls who work for the company. Is that how you would characterize it?
Yeah, I mean, look, every team is going to be different, but I think the challenge is in some ways. So you go to the Big Four, they pay less than the big law firms, right? They
Because they've got the
pay
big
less.
name.
Pardon?
Yes, they've got the big name. That's why. That's why you
Yeah,
go there.
but they pay less because they're like, but you get more work life balance here than you do at a law firm as a
Oh,
lawyer, right?
oh,
Right. And so then you go expecting the balance. Like it's a big pay difference. Like they still pay well, right? But it's a big pay differential.
mm,
And so you go expecting more balance. But my experience was certainly that you then go into these very highly competitive environments where the expectations are that you will give all of yourself to your work. If you aren't giving all of yourself to your work, you aren't dedicated. And
mm,
Tony, I'll be honest, I completely drank the Kool-Aid. right? I would
Right.
watch
Yeah.
people who weren't giving all of themselves to work, and I was so judgmental of them. I was like, they don't care enough about their work.
Mm,
They're not dedicated. Um,
mm,
but the result was that, I kind of killed myself. Obviously, I'm still alive, but I kind of killed myself for
yeah.
my job
Yeah. Yeah.
in environments that were just very, very toxic.
Right. So when we're talking about that, so you went from KPMG
Yeah.
to PwC. What led to the change?
So I decided in about 2013 that I didn't want to do law anymore. I was like, this environment
Yeah.
is not for me. It's not healthy. The way the team runs is
Mm,
dreadful. And I actually did a secondment internally that wasn't client facing. And that was great. I loved it. And I really got to develop my people skills because I was running a team of people and
mm,
doing like graduate development programs. And it was just ace. I loved it. It really
right.
sort of spoke to my skill set. And then someone that I trained with, so before I joined KPMG, a partner from that law firm had gone to PwC. And he contacted me and asked if I would go and help him run the team. And there was that real tug in me of, do I need to give this one more go? Like, was it just the
Mm,
environment at KPMG that didn't work? Like, am
mm,
I going to regret it if, so we're at 2015 at this point, am I going to regret it if I don't ever do law again after, because there's this
mm,
whole thing of, I've done all these qualifications, would it be a
yeah.
waste? I've got this
Yeah.
status, I've got this
Yeah.
title. So I
Yeah.
then go into PwC and I joined PwC in May of 2015 to see really to go and be the big
Mm,
fancy lawyer that was running the tax team and all of the rest of it.
yeah. 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 Because we do see things in TV shows and on all those sort of things that law can be fun and fast paced, and it can be glamorous, which I don't agree with.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not my experience. And also, it depends on your definition of glamorous, right? Because you would go
Mm,
to awards evenings and you would go to these fancy events and you wear your ball gown. But
yeah.
also, it's like if you've been in the office since whatever time in the morning and then you finish your day, then you have to get changed in the office to then go to an event that doesn't finish till midnight. Like, the photos might look glamorous. Like, the reality is like dry chicken awards that people have paid for because they're not real awards.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's and it's relentless. And I think there are a section of people, and I do not fall into this. I think there are a section of people that are probably very well equipped to be lawyers and really enjoy it. But if, like me, you're doing it to try and prove yourself and prove your worth and look good, and there isn't this underlying thing of like, this is my vocation, then it's just a shit show.
Yeah. Exactly. So, what are some of the practices that we were talking before? And you're talking about, their perspective, no matter what they say publicly, was just to make money.
Yeah, and I remember being in PwC and having a conversation with the partner, at the time feeling quite burnt out, but not talking about it. But other
Mm,
people in the team had been talking about it. And he was like, I don't want to hear about these people talking about burnout. They get well paid, like they're here to do a job, they should just be here. He was like, margins are really tight at the moment and we need to keep squeezing them. We need to keep squeezing them because we need to keep the margins tight. And basically didn't really care because the team were making money, which meant more money for him. I mean, we didn't see
yeah.
it.
Mm,
More money for him. Um, and that was the goal and the focus. So it was almost like the work was lost, but also the human was lost. And I didn't
mm,
have at that time the ability to say, I think this is really short sighted because if everyone burns out, they're going to do shit work, and then
yeah. That's right.
it's all
Yeah.
going to go to shit.
Yeah. Well, exactly right. And I mean, you got to measure time and keep billing microseconds and seconds and
Six
minutes,
minute
and
chunks.
that's it. 6 minute chunk. So if you are lucky enough to go to the bathroom and then run down and get something to eat downstairs and a coffee and come back in 6 minutes, who are you going to charge that to?
Exactly. Exactly. And then what are you going to do when you're in a meeting to talk about a meeting or a team meeting or someone else wants to talk to you or you get a phone call or all of the training and things that you have to do? And all of
Yes.
that has to be fit in alongside, and these are your chargeable hours targets.
Yes.
that have to be completed, which is how I think a lot of the time people end up just doing crazy long days
Yeah.
because of that pressure.
Yeah. So, were there any aspects you enjoyed across the board?
I got a lot of satisfaction from doing things like drafting witness statements, helping clients with their queries, helping them understand the process. So I was a litigator, so helping them understand the court process and what that was going to look like. I really enjoyed supporting the team and supporting the juniors in the team. Though, as I've kind of alluded before, my boundaries and things weren't great for me then. So instead of helping them to look after themselves, I kind of took it all on, which didn't add anything good for me. But I really enjoyed that part of it. So there was at the actual work, there was a lot of satisfaction, but it was just all the shit that went on in the background,
Yeah.
like the psychological warfare, the pressure, and just people, like sometimes clients not being nice because there were some horrendous clients, but actually that within the team it didn't feel like this lovely collaborative environment. It was often like if I turned around the wrong way, they would stab me in the back, given any
Well,
opportunity.
yeah, and that happens in a lot of workplaces. And you were talking about juniors, and we had the recent podcast interview, which again led to us here, with a junior lawyer discussing all of that and the importance of mental health that's now finally recognised. So, what led you to getting out? How did you manage to get out of the legal profession?
Yeah, and if it's all right, I'm just going to touch on something that you said then about like mental health
Yes.
is now recognised. I think it's really
Yes.
important that we distinguish between mental health being recognised and like people ticking a box for like, oh, it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and actually it being incorporated into the culture of the organisation. Because I remember when I was at PwC, so we used Outlook, I had a subfolder in Outlook, Helen would be happy, a subfolder in Outlook for well-being stuff, right? So when I got the
Right.
well-being things through, I would put it in there with this great intention of I was going to read it, and they would do lunchtime events and other things. There was never time to go. There was never time to
Yeah.
read the email,
Yeah.
and very often you kind of got this message of, so the message from the top might be well-being, but in this team this is not how we do it, because this is not what you're going to do. And so I think there is,
Right.
yes, there is more of a recognition, but it also needs to be fed down so that it actually becomes part of the culture, rather than, oh, on our shiny website we've got this thing that we do,
Yes.
but the reality is something very different.
So, do you think the upper echelons are aware that's not trickling down, or they just not focused, or just not interested, or is it still the same? Is it better now?
So I left 7 years ago, but I have a lot of clients that are still in that space. I'm not sure it is better now, really. The cynic in me would like to say that upper echelons don't really give a shit whether it trickles down or not, because
Yep.
they can put it on their website and they've ticked a
Yep.
box.
Yep. Yep.
And the thing as well is, in that industry, because it's so competitive, do they really care if people burn out and leave when there is a whole load of fresh people just ready to be stuck on the treadmill behind
Yeah.
them?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's completely true. Obviously, I don't sit in their board meetings, but that would be my sense in
Yeah.
a lot of places.
Yeah, well, that does make sense, and I guess because they've got the name, it's like Apple. Apple's got the name, and I know Apple don't pay that well. I wouldn't say they any way treat their staff anywhere near as bad as the legal firms. But yeah, so once you've got the name, you can do what you want, I guess. And there's a wonderful concept of rainmakers. So they're only interested in rainmakers. So if you have you seen Boston Legal?
Don't think so, but go on.
It's a great TV show. It's very, very funny, very, very quirky. Write it down. See if you can get hold of it. Boston Legal. Yep.
Okay.
That's about a law firm, obviously, in Boston. The perspectives are quite interesting, and we're dealing with rain. There's a show out actually called Rainmakers.
Okay.
So I guess that they were only interested in rainmakers, and within the company themselves, only the rainmakers get to go forward.
Yeah, and again, and it's a stereotype, but also it's very true. A lot of the time, the rainmakers are the sociopaths, the psychopaths, and the narcissists, right?
Yep.
So they
Yep.
create these incredibly toxic environments for other people, which the
Yep.
business knows about, but they
Yep.
don't do anything about it because they bring in
Yep.
the money in.
Yes.
So you have this
Yep.
whole situation of people being bullied, people being harassed. Like the stories I have heard from people, not my
Mm.
experience, around like sexual harassment, even
Mm.
sexual assault at work, and they're the
Yep.
ones that get pushed out because the person that's done it is making the business a lot of money, right? So
Yep.
you're right. There is this whole very insidious underworld that goes on
Mm.
where people who do have some of those personality traits, and it makes them good at their jobs in some ways,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people that have those personality traits essentially just getting away with it because exactly they're making it rain.
Well, that's right. Yeah, and they're treating people like prey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So when you got out, what led you to getting out, and what did you decide to do when you left?
So I left in 2018 in the September. Um, I kind of had a sense in about the May that I needed to go. Like things had turned really toxic in the team. And so I'd started to look at things. Actually, my sister said to me, on the back of me saying to her, the only thing that I enjoy is working with the people. She said, what about coaching? She worked for Mars, so she had a
Mm.
coach, because Mars, American company.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of coaching. So that sort of
Yeah.
seed was planted, and I started to look at it, but really from a place of, not from a place of this is my life's work, but from a place of, really, I'll do anything at this point to get out.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was kind of going on in the background. And then, to be honest, I left because I had to. Like, my health got so bad. I wasn't sleeping. I would wake up in the morning in tears. I got to a point where I was getting tingles in my hands and feet. I had blood
Mm.
tests. They were testing me. They thought I might have multiple sclerosis. Like, all
Wow.
of these different things were happening in my body. And I
Mm.
just couldn't, like, I couldn't hold it together anymore. That, like, facade of perfectionism and pushing through, I just couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
in September of 2018, I used all of my annual leave. So we get quite a decent amount of annual leave over here. So I took a month off. And
Yeah.
my husband, he'd left his job as well. So I had this month off, but kind of under the umbrella of I'm going to spend some time with my husband.
Yeah.
Whereas really, I just needed the time for myself. And
Yeah.
in that month off, I just realised that I wasn't okay. Like like I really wasn't okay. But it was amazing being away from work. This might be too much information for you, but I'm going to say it anyway because it was a really important part of the decision. I'd come off the pill a couple of years earlier and I never had a period. And I'd had loads and
Oh,
loads
wow.
of tests, health tests around it.
Mm.
And the gynecologist was like, there's nothing really wrong with you, but I think your stress levels are so high that your body just can't function. And
Yeah.
in that month off, I had a period. And
So, wow, the physical manifestation.
yeah. And it was just such a strong sign to me of, I've got to get out. I've got to get out for my health, for my
Yeah.
well-being.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what were some of the signs and triggers apart from the month's holiday? What was there anything that made you notice that you needed to make a change?
So I think deep down, there was this deep down knowing that it wasn't right for me, that I didn't enjoy
Right.
doing it. You know, and
Yeah.
I even talked to the partner about it sometimes, and he'd be like, "But it would be Law's loss if you left." And I used to walk around
Right.
the office in my mind, being like, "But just because I can doesn't mean I should. Just because I can doesn't mean I should."
Right.
So
Okay.
there was that, and to be honest, it was when the team turned toxic that I knew I had to get out. And the
Right.
situation that I was in was I was a senior manager, and then above me there was a director and a partner. And basically the director and the partner constantly contradicted each other.
Oh.
But they would tell me, like, he said this, she said this, but the two things never matched. And adding
Right.
to the point that at this point I'm already quite stressed and I'm quite burnt out and there's lots of stuff going on at home. And it was just, like, when I said psychological warfare before, that is exactly how it felt.
Mm.
And there was
Yeah.
this day, I remember it was the 31st of August, 2018. I had 3 massive deadlines in one day. It was the most intense day. And just before I left the office, the director called me and told me one thing and told me that the partner was really annoyed about something. And then on my way to the tube, the partner called me and said, just want to say well done today. Have a great weekend. I know sometimes you overthink things, but I just want you to know the direct opposite of what the director had just told me that he'd been on the phone moaning to her about. And that for me, that was the I'm done moment. Because I was like, I cannot function as part of the management of this team with this shit going down. I can't. And so that was it. I was out. And I did actually go back to work for about 3 weeks after that. But I remember lying there in bed being like, could I just go into the office and clear out my locker and just never go back?
So how did you get out?
So about 3 weeks into my 4 weeks of annual leave, I called the doctor. And I went to see the doctor, and because I'd seen the doctor before for all the the tingles and the blood tests and things, and they wanted to sign me off then, and I wouldn't let them because I was a perfectionist that didn't want to look weak. So the doctor signed me off work with stress for 6 weeks to begin with.
Wow.
And in the background, I'd been looking at some coaching courses. So never one to be sick and be off at that point because I didn't know how to rest and how to look after myself. I started a coaching qualification while I was off. Then decided I wanted to go back to work. Oh no, I didn't. No, I decided I didn't want to go back to work, but I knew I wanted to leave. And because the Big Four really care about you and they have their employee assistance scheme, I had my 6 sessions with a therapist as part of the package. And the therapist staged an intervention. She was like, you're not ready to make a decision about whether or not you can leave because you're not well enough to go back. She's like, at the moment, you're just running away. She said, you need to wait until you're well enough to decide if you want to be in that environment or not. So I then go back to the doctors. And that was the first time I allowed myself to admit that I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
I go back to the doctors. They sign me off for another 6 weeks. So I'm at 3 months signed off at this point.
Yeah.
Over the Christmas, I just decided that I was done, right? So I went to have a meeting with the partner to say, I just don't think I can be well in this team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of all the things that had happened. And rather than raise a grievance or be difficult about it, I asked them if they would pay my notice period, but I didn't want to work it. Oh, actually, you're going to love this story, Tony. Would they pay my notice period? But I didn't want to work it. So he said, leave it with me. I'll look into it. But wasn't really listening because he was like, but we've saved all these projects for you. But can you come back? Because we've saved these projects for you. So about 2 nights later, he sends me a text that he meant to send to the director.
Ooh.
And the text basically is like, why should we pay her off? It's not our fault she got sick. I'm going to go and draft a replacement thing for her. And he was on a ski holiday. I'm going to go and hit the slopes now. But it was basically like, I don't think we should do anything for her. She got sick. That's not our fault. Let's just try and replace her. And it was just this moment of complete clarity of, you're valuable while you're there. While you're there, you're indispensable, and they'll make you work all the hours, and they'll tell you that you're the most important thing in the world. But the second you're no longer valuable, it's like, how do we get rid? So I went back to the doctor, told the doctor what had happened. And I imagine it's one of the most valuable sick notes that's ever been printed out. Actually, no, probably not. But she just was like, I'm not having that. And she printed out a sick note for 3 months to cover my entire notice period so that I would get paid and not work my notice period. So another 3-month sick note, at which point I've been off for 7 months because I've got my month annual leave and the 6 other months. And in that time, I qualified as a coach and I started my own business. And
Well, congratulations. Yeah, and look, I think that's part of, it's difficult when you're in these situations and you're suffering under mental stress to see a way out. And at the time you couldn't see a way out, but you knew you were looking for one. But you found something by qualifying as being a coach, whether or not you went ahead and did that or not.
Yeah.
But you need to have something that you can focus on, something you can look forward to into the future.
Yeah, because otherwise it's a real panic. I have this with clients now who are like, I need to leave I want to leave, but then there is this complete panic and fear of, but I don't know what the what next looks like.
Mm.
And that creates a lot of stress in them because they like certainty, they like planning, they want to know. And I
Yes.
think you're right, like something to focus on. And for me, the
Yes.
focus actually was this promise that I made myself of, I'm going to do everything that I need to do so I never feel this bad again.
Mm. Yeah. And it's really important to have, like, in a minor way, we both had the same coach and I moved on from the coach. But I said all along I wouldn't do it until I had something else and I have something else. Because you've got to replace it with something.
Yeah.
Stress. My daughter gets very, very stressed. She loves the stress
Mm.
secretly,
Mm.
right? She complains about it, but she actually loves it, right? She creates situations where she's under more stress outside of work. I like getting pregnant. No, I'm joking. But yeah, so
I haven't got kids, I'm with you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So she creates all this stressful situation, and she likes the stress. So there's eustress, which is good. Stress is good, but it can become toxic. And when you're having physical manifestations, right, tingling with your hands and whatever, not having a period, all these sort of things, you need to get help, critically help now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise the next step is the autoimmune diagnosis or the whatever or the collapsing or the all manner of things.
Yes.
Say I'd wanted to have children and I didn't,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
as an aside, say I'd wanted to have children, but I got to a point where my body couldn't do that
Yeah.
because of the stress and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And you are
Yeah.
right. There is this point where, so one of the things that I've spent a long time training in is like the nervous system and trauma resolution because I realized in my work that was part of my background that needed some resolution. And you're right. So we have the things that stress us. And if our body is working well, we have the stress, we deal with the stress, we come back into a nice place of like
Yes.
homeostasis. Whereas
Yes.
actually, if we haven't got what we need within ourselves, in like nervous system language, we'd
Mm.
say like enough
Mm.
resources, you go into that stress place, you don't come back down, but over time, the stress becomes too much, and then the system becomes overwhelmed. And that's where you go into the depression, the shutdown,
Yeah.
and the burnout
Yeah. Yeah.
because the
And
body just is like, no.
exactly right. And I think that's just, those are the things we just want to encourage everyone to have a look at. Look at the physical manifestations of what's going on. Ask other people, husbands and partners and friends and family. They will let you know honestly how things are working for you and listen to them. Don't listen to work. Don't listen to bosses when you're in that sort of environment. Look, a little bit of stress is good. And yeah, look, I worked in jobs where I was in sales and whatever, and I was working really long hours. I was making good money. But even that takes its toll. So money isn't the only thing in the world. Your health, family, and fun is much more important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're really right about noticing the red flags. So it's like,
Mm.
does your sleep schedule change? Does the way you eat change? If you have like different ways that you like, when you're stressed, do you notice that you're drinking more or you stop doing the exercise that you're doing? And you just
Mm.
start to notice and pay attention to these little red flags. And you're right, and asking people to keep an eye on you because
Yes.
we're very good at like self-denial. So we're often the last people to know that we're not
Mm.
okay because we
Mm.
just keep pushing through and pushing through and pushing through.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Louise. So you have a website or Facebook where we can reach out to you?
Yeah, so I am Louise Lewis on Facebook and the website is louiselewiscoaching.co.uk.
Great. Look, thank you so much for that. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think it's just a promise, but not a legally binding promise,
Right. Okay.
that
Yeah.
if you feel like the work you are doing or the stress you are experiencing is too much, to trust that there is another way. There is another way of experiencing life, of taking care of yourself. It might not even, like a lot of the time, it doesn't
Mm.
even involve a job change. But
Mm.
I think a lot of the time we can label ourselves with, oh, I'm just anxious, I'm just this, I'm just that, I'm just the other. And you can feel better. You can feel better. It is possible. So I think that's it. If anything, it's kind of like a message of hope of like whatever situation you're in, poor mental health, I don't think needs to be a day-to-day part of life.
No. And I would say make time for yourself.
100%.
Great. Right.
100%.
Thank you.
Thank you.